So, without further ado, everybody has before them a tax abatement ordinance. Mr. Calloway is present. He was asked to be here this evening to answer any questions that we may have about the tax abatement ordinance and his application for a tax abatement.
Cambridge Drive, okay.
35 Cambridge Drive.
Yep.
Just so you understand the process, there's a committee. We had one of these most recently was Compound Solutions. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of them, but Mr. Calloway is bringing a business to town. We very much appreciate his consideration of the town of Monroe, and has applied for a tax abatement on this project. He has submitted to the Tax Abatement Committee. And I'll just note for the record, if you review our charter, there's two conflicting articles about who compromises and makes up the Tax Abatement Committee. So we have two sections that control under Section 470. There's 470-11 references a Tax Abatement Review Committee. And then subsequently in the same section, 470-30 references yet a different committee. So wonderful government, more confusing red tape. But he did meet with one of those committees that did compromise the appropriate individuals. Mr. Bonovsky, Mr. Lasky, our assessor, Ms. Bombero was there to record the minutes. In your packet at the end, you'll have copies of both of those minutes from those meetings. They took place on September 8th and September 1st. Again, Mr. Vavrick, Mr. Bonovsky, Mr. Lasky, Mr. McKeon, who was not the chairman of EDC, but he was appointed by EDC to attend those meetings, and Ms. Bombero took the minutes. So there was a presentation and there was a recommendation made for an abatement. The maximum abatement is 30% of the approved assessed value, the assessed value on the improvements, and the maximum amount of years is 3 years. So a calculation was done based upon what is speculative and proposed tax for the property. And like I said, the recommendation was the full 30% and 3 years on the increased assessed amount, which comes out to about $8,800 per year based upon the calculations. So without further ado, Mr. Caldwell, if you just come forward, just state your name and address for the record, and maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the project.
Sure. My name is Shoki Caldwell. I live in Easton, 99 Staples Road. Basically, the long and short of it, I come from a second-generation family business. We operated in New York since 1956. What we do for a living, we're involved in a heavy-duty truck parts aftermarket. So we get involved with anything from a Mack truck to a lawnmower, pretty much anything in the middle of that. We're involved in the emission systems, the charging systems, the turbocharging systems, the fuel injection systems, the filtration systems. So it's very much a niche specialty market. Selfishly, I've been driving to New York for the past 20 years and decided I wanted to make it a little bit easier on myself and pick this town. It's pretty close and kind of provides a lot of what we're looking to do. Very good business model. A lot of agricultural around here, things of that nature. So we did look around, found a great piece here and found a great builder. So that's the long and short of the business. I mean, I can get more detailed and I'm really proud of it. So if you ask me to, I'll keep you here all night. But in the interest of time, I just figured I'd give you a quick overview. But when we are open, I welcome, just like I did with every meeting I'm here, I welcome everybody to come down because we're really proud of what we're looking at.
Why don't you give us the WOW figures? What do you estimate the cost of the construction to be?
Cost of the construction, we had it down about 1,575. Like all things, I hope it stays to budget, but my guess is we'll probably exceed that by about 100 to 150.
Okay.
Easily.
And what percentage of that, or what amount is the cost of just the improvement itself, as opposed to?
That's just the improvement.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with the land. That's just a brand new construction.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, just where it is right now, the foundation's poured, the steel is up, building skinned. So if we can all pray for good weather, hopefully we'll get this thing done and paved sooner than as soon as we'd like.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, please let me know along the way. I have Ms. Kansky.
You planning on hiring people?
Of course, yeah.
Can you tell me how much? And
It's honestly going to depend on the way the business starts. We budgeted within the first year about 10 people. So, we'll see where it goes from there.
so it may expand?
It may expand. My facility in New York, I employ 48 people there.
Okay.
So, I don't expect it to grow that overnight, but we're not planning on displacing any jobs in New York. The concept was not to move business here. The concept was to continue to grow an additional business here.
So there may be Connecticut jobs you're talking
Oh,
about?
yeah, these are all Connecticut jobs.
Okay.
There's going to be 10 Connecticut jobs.
Okay.
That's what we're budgeting to start. So we're not going to look to retire people until probably the early part of Q1. Meeting with Mr. Kimball yesterday, on Saturday we met. He's estimating we should finish somewhere in February-ish or so. So we figure in early January we'll start interviewing and looking around. We've already have a lot of people that we're opening and have asked and are considering employment with us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Q1 of 2017,
Oh, yeah.
calendar, right?
Yeah.
So I saw the 10 jobs in the application. What type of jobs, what's the range? Are they all the same, or they?
No, it's going to actually be a bunch of different jobs. It could be everything from clerical, we've got order takers, and we've got people that get involved in accounts payable, accounts receivable. There'll be delivery opportunities, there'll be customer service opportunities. There'll also be warehousing in that situation. Another caveat that the initial group that I met with wasn't aware of, kind of an interesting sidebar that will probably benefit Connecticut far more than New York. About 3 years ago, I took on the initiative of writing a piece of software to run our business. Lo and behold, I didn't realize we did such a good job of it. We're actually getting solicited right now to be licensed. So we actually may be looking at a bunch of programming and IT as well, if it ends up going in that
So
direction.
order to pay stuff, P2P, like what?
No, actually.
Warehousing,
No,
supply chain?
it's quite different, actually. Our business, you don't look at me as somebody like an AutoZone or a Pep Boys. It's totally different. While we'll sell parts for a Honda or for a Toyota once a year, we're getting involved with a Liebherr crane or a Cat excavator. So because it's so small, it kind of fell off the radar of what a lot of these larger programmers would think of. So it's a full ERP system. It handles everything from payables, receivables, purchase orders, work orders, bill of materials, work-through process. It's a sales CRM. It handles everything from dispatch, fully cloud-based. It's a SaaS model. So I can't guarantee anything, but if and when that does take off, and we have a lot of different meetings, because that's near and dear to my heart, and it's one of the things I chair up, most likely those jobs would come here as well. So good opportunity. For whatever it's worth, I went to Fairfield University, so I've got a connection there. I'm affiliated with the business school. I do a lot of mentorship there, so it wouldn't be too hard to find people, I think, to also fill that role.
That's great.
Mr. Keller?
Yeah, I had a few questions. First of all, I want to thank you for considering Monroe to your visit, and we greatly appreciate that. We obviously have copies of the minutes from a couple of the meetings of the committees, but obviously that doesn't necessarily capture the discussion, and I just want to know if there was anything that you would want to share with us in regards to this application and the kind of calculus of your company in terms of making a decision in Monroe, and anything that you would think would be relevant for us to have in terms of those details.
Specifically why we chose Monroe, or?
Why you chose Monroe, and how this application fits into that decision.
I'll be candid with you. We looked at a bunch of different places. When we first came up here, I went initially to the city of Bridgeport. I just sat down and said, actually, to be very candid, I spoke to the state at first, and the economic development there, and there was an immediate contact with the city of Bridgeport, and I went in there, and I don't know, it just didn't feel like home, quite frankly. I came from a very, city dense population where I am right now in Queens, where my business is located, and it just didn't feel right. I felt like I was just duplicating my efforts there. So I decided I wanted to go for more of a country feel, as hokey as it sounds. And when you see the building when it's finished, one of the prerequisites I told Mr. Kimball was, I don't want it to look like a warehouse. I want it to look more like a country setting. And when you see the facade when it's done, we put an overhang porch, we put stonework along the front. For whatever it's worth, I'm still relatively young, but I've been doing this for a very, very long time. I think I was doing my dad's building in many ways. So for me, this is a lot about quality of life. I said to myself a couple of requirements. I want to be able to run to work. Some mornings I want to be able to ride my bike to work. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to complain. I've had a good career, and I work real hard, and nothing's going to change from that. But there was a side of me that was a bit selfish, honestly, in my decision. And I looked at Trumbull, I looked at a bunch of other towns, Monroe just felt right, I mean, quite frankly. And again, he's not here, so I'm not blowing smoke towards him. Mr. Vavrick was instrumental, but I think probably the number one reason, if I was to say why I'm here, is probably John Kimball. You know, part of the process is you start to look at properties, but then you've got to also start to meet the builders. And knowing that I wouldn't be there to watch the property, you know, 7 days a week and be in front of it, as much of the location that I chose was also the person that I chose. And I'll call him John because he's a friend. He's just been great. I mean, he's made this whole process from introductions to just the entire process. So again, it sounds kind of hokey, but he's about as much of a reason as why I'm here as I would say even like a Lindy Gold or somebody from the state that came through. So he's a heck of a good guy, and he's a good advocate for the town. So just think you guys should know that.
Thank you. My other question has to do with, I mean, I know that the section of the town code that's relevant requires that, you know, the project be compliant with permits and
Oh, sure.
other regulations. I just assume that there's no, I don't know where you are in the process regarding to zoning, building, those kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay,
At this
no,
point,
it's-
we've gone through every process.
Excellent.
We've passed zoning, we've passed wetlands, and as I said, we're hoping that the building's gonna be done in the next 75 to 90 days. I mean,
Excellent, okay,
It's up, the structure's there.
great.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, unless somebody knows something I don't, I think we're fully in compliance with
Good,
everything
okay.
that is there.
And lastly, I just wanted to ask, obviously this, you know, this application is relative to the value of the improvements, which I know you've characterized in your application as 1.575. We hear it might be a little bit more at this point. And the abatement would be off of that. However, what I think it doesn't, you know, this process doesn't necessarily capture, what I like to understand is there's obviously personal property
Oh, sure.
taxes of equipment and
Oh, yeah.
furnishings that we brought in. Can you characterize that
Sure.
without holding any specific number? You know, I just like to get
I
an
can give you
understanding of.
basically our initial budget that we started when this whole process started almost a year ago.
Mhm.
We budgeted, not including inventory, about $2.5 million to do this project.
Okay.
And within that $2.5 million, it's everything from shelvings to furnitures to vehicles to
Mhm.
lift trucks to.
So
I mean,
there's,
Everything, I mean,
there's a,
we've got, you know, I'm bad with CFMs and things of that nature, but monstrously big generators and
Mhm,
air
mhm,
compressors
sure.
and stuff like that to run some of the equipment that we're gonna have up there, so.
so there's roughly another $1 million of
I would say probably.
taxable.
Yeah, I mean, I would say $500,000 is probably more of a
Okay.
realistic number of things that'll be taxable, and then, you know, when we budgeted about another $500,000 to $750,000 starting in inventory,
Mhm,
with an
mhm.
end of a year and a half, probably being somewhere about $2.5 million in
Okay,
inventory as
great.
well, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're making a big investment, we're not gonna do
Oh,
this
I-
kind of halfway, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna go full
Right.
bore with it, so.
Thank you, yeah, that's just a piece of
Yeah.
information that we didn't have, so I just want to
And I
make sure we have it on the
apologize.
record. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, just to summarize, I think we hit all the key points, but I just want to make sure the record's clear. The considerations that we have to take into consideration are relocation of a business into the town of Monroe, which we've complied with, new construction or remodeling of existing buildings. We have new construction here, an increase in employment opportunities within the town, which we've captured, and or preserving existing opportunities, which also have been captured. The other thing that we can consider, and I just want to get it on the record because it was in the application, was that there may be green improvements.
Oh, yeah. there's
And
a
so
lot
if you
of-
could just tell us about those
Sure.
quickly.
Well, one thing, we built the building and just timing and all those other issues, we prepared the building for solar. So part of the thing is we put the steel structure in a way that it could support it. The second aspect, and maybe I don't do my business enough justice in selling it to some extent, we are very much a green company. What we do is, every diesel engine built after 2007 has what's called a diesel emissions catalyst on it. And basically what that does, if you've ever seen a diesel engine driving down the road, you see that black soot that comes out of it. They've corrected that by putting essentially, think of it as a catalytic converter for your car, but think of it for a diesel engine. What's unique about that is that in your vehicle, in your catalyst on your traditional petrol vehicle, your car, you wouldn't have to take that thing off and service it. Diesel engines don't have that luxury. These things have to be serviced once a year. So actually what we're doing, and we're very involved with the EPA and a lot of the lobbying from everybody from CARB along the way, we'll actually get involved in replacing those systems, retrofitting those systems, One of the things we're gonna be bringing into southern Connecticut, which has been void for a while, is a campaign to take pre-2007 engines and retrofit them. We did a job with the town of Fairfield where we converted roughly about $800,000 worth of vehicles, and we got it all paid for by the EPA, 100%. So we'll come into a town and municipality and we'll say, show us every one of your vehicles that's pre-2007, and we'll do a diagnosis and say, well, because this vehicle is running this many hours, here's the particulate soot that's coming out of it, and we can show you an immediate correlation to asthma. The beauty of it is for the last 8 years, the Obama administration has been extremely supportive of EPA, and for that, they've said we've had an immediate correlation between ash in the air and asthma. They put grant money out there. It's called DERA, Diesel Emissions Reduction Act. So what we're able to actually do is cherry pick the funds and solicit them. So, I mean, obviously, town of Monroe is going to be on our list. Every town within here in an attempt to take the older equipment. It's not just on-road, it's off-road. People don't realize it, but there's different tiers of compliance. There's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4, even for your off-road equipment. So you could have a standby generator that's running the building, or you could have a school bus that's driving down the street that's not in compliance now. The state of Connecticut doesn't mandate the laws the way New York and California do. But one of the initiatives that we're going to put forward is grabbing that federal money and tying it and putting it to the town. I didn't lead with that, but again, I don't think I sell the company very well. Maybe that's why they locked me in the office.
Anybody else? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Caldwell, for coming. I appreciate it. Before we close the public hearing, I just want to ask the public if they have the opportunity to speak. Certainly, I want to ask them if they want to speak first and foremost. And then secondly, I just want to advise you that the application is on our agenda this evening.
Okay.
So we may or may not take action this evening. You're welcome to stay if you'd like. I don't want to bore you, but we certainly will advise you tomorrow as to what action we did take or what action we're going to take. But thank you very much for coming.
But I promised I'd put to bed, so I'm going to go do that.
I think that's a sound decision, but thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we close the hearing, would any members of the public like to speak on this application for tax abatement? About soccer, want to talk about soccer? All right, thank you very much.